Alexander returns to the show.
Back.
We have your journal out in front of us, which is not podcast topics. It's just stuff that you find interesting.
That's right.
All right. So let's fucking dive in. You were trying to give me a quote, and I was like, no. Pause. Save it.
It's not a quote.
Save it.
It's not a quote.
What is it?
All right. The first thing, this wasn't my intention, by the way, just
That's
for
fine.
listeners.
I don't have an intention.
But here we
for
are.
today.
So the first thing that's in the journal that I find interesting. So the vagus nerve, 80% of the thyroid is like kind of a famous nerve. It's known as the wandering nerve. It helps with innervating the diaphragm, various different organs. Really big on function of your autonomic nervous system. So like how you feel, your resting state.
Parasympathetic.
All that stuff, yeah, regulating it. But so anyway, so 80% of the nerve fibers from that are afferent, meaning they're sensory. And so the reason that I think that's really interesting is kind of like metaphoric in a sense that 80% of this nerve, amongst other ones as well, are made for sensation. And then there's this 20% that's the efferent that's based off of like the motor, do, go, have at it, like execute.
Oh, no shit.
And so it's really fascinating that the world that we live in is kind of flipped in that. You know, so most of us, we're like 80-20, the opposite direction. We're just fucking go get it. You know, and then there's this little bit of like every now and again, maybe I feel something.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, the actual function and structure of your nervous system is set up in such a way that it's like, feel. So anyways, that's the first thing in my notebook.
I love that. That's a great way to start it off. Wim Hof's talked quite a bit about the vagus nerve. Also, you've seen the documentary I Am with Tom Shadyac?
No.
It's awesome. So watch it. And I'm going to tell my listeners right now, you have to watch the documentary because Aubrey Marcus and I are going to have Tom Shadyac on our podcast. He was the director of Liar Liar, Ace Ventura Pet Detective, the original. Ton of fucking great movies. Bruce Almighty, like, basically gave Jim Carrey his career. Obviously, Jim Carrey's Jim Carrey, and he would have taken off no matter what. But awesome dude, super woke. And he did this awesome documentary called I Am, where he travels searching like the meaning of happiness. And he talks to meditators and monks and Buddhists and just all over the fucking world. He travels in search of what makes people happy. And it's really fucking cool. It's a dope story.
What's he find?
He finds a lot of this has to do with the vagus nerve. It has to do with tapping in silence, being comfortable in your own skin, doing the work to heal. And then from there, you can appreciate, you have gratitude for things like that because it gives you perspective on what's important and what isn't.
Yeah. There's a guy, Stephen Porges, who founded the whole polyvagal theory and kind of...
Polyvagal?
Polyvagal. Yeah.
More than one vagal?
Yeah. yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, really. You know, so he found it. He's like a main pioneer in that whole kind of discovery.
What is polyvagal without me cracking jokes because of the polyamory?
Yeah, so just the vagus nerve isn't just one specific nerve. It actually breaks into the front and into the back. And both sides of those control different sides of like more of that like sympathetic, parasympathetic side of the nervous system. So Porges pioneered that stuff. And one of the things that he gets into, he has a thing called Safe Sound Project, SSP. And he has people listen to these audio tapes. I haven't actually listened to it to know exactly. I've just read about it. But I believe it's a 5-day program. People can just check it out. Look up SSP, Stephen Porges, Polyvagal Theory. And he ends up with this audio tape, essentially tuning people's nervous system with these audio frequencies.
No shit.
That's what we're doing all the time.
Is he using like sound bowls or tuning forks or things like that? Like what's he doing? Or is he just playing like a note, 432
I think it's more like frequencies.
Okay. Yeah. So
and
like
then there's
binaural
also
beats or...
I don't know if it's binaural beats.
Okay.
I don't think it is binaural beats. You know, but so what's interesting with that is that our nervous systems, we're always being tuned by our environment. You know, so that's what you see with like, you know, a mother speaking to their child. You know, it's like there's something about that. He calls it prosodic voice. It's like this melodic voice that the child's like, oh. You know, so
unless you're like, knock it off. I've had
kids don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so kids are so good with sensing this stuff. And that's what's really interesting is it's like I just find it endlessly fascinating how our physical world forms our structure and forms our emotions, forms the way that we think, forms the way that we feel, even to the point that you can put an audio tape in between your ears, and it can literally start to work with things like ADHD, anxiety, depression, a whole plethora of different disorders, I guess you could call them, challenges, just through tones. So many people look at kids that are like growing up in the inner city, and they're constantly, doors slamming, parents yelling at each other, really challenging. And it's very easy for us to feel like it's just like, oh, well, I never hit the kid. It's like, well, the sound was hitting him all day.
Yeah.
And so it's just fascinating to me how malleable we are.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's funny because there's two sides of that coin. There is I'm going to make myself bulletproof, or whatever term you want to use. And from there, that could be like you have this hard-nosed military idea of what it means to be a man. And then you also have the flip side of that coin. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's probably critical for combat. But, the flip side of that coin, being able to have a full expression of feeling and being aware of that, being aware that everything has an impact on you, and all stress is stress in the body. So if you have chronic stress from an emotionally fucked up partnership, or work, or financial, or a shitty diet, fill in the blank, or chronic bad sleep, all those things contribute.
Yep. And then there's the balance between stress versus the other stress, the bad stress.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the dance. Like, that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're into like biohacking or like any variety of getting healthier, it's figuring out what's that balance between pushing myself to the point of hypertrophy, if you want your muscles to grow, or whatever adaptation that you're seeking. What's the point that I'll actually gain that adaptation versus what's the point where I went too far and I crash?
Yeah.
And that's the whole game. And most of us, I think, are more in a place of chronic stress. It seems to be the general consensus. And our solution is more, again, it's the inverse of what the function of the vagus nerve. We go more motor, more go.
I just got to push through it.
I'm going to push through this week.
It's like, I'll rest this weekend.
It's like, dude, maybe there's a chance you've been pushing through it for 30 years. And you never even had the tools, access to the tools for you to actually step back and feel and start to actually heal. I think that's something that's something I'm really enamored with, like meditation. Like before doing stuff like this, I at one point was like, and today a little bit, because we were kind of like just in a sense rolling out of bed actually. So I'm kind of like trying to stir things up. But previously I was like all push-ups, all go, like whoa. Now I'm like meditation before doing something like this.
Slow it down.
So I think it's maybe that happens with like age or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be it. We're getting older. How old are you now?
Not too old, 31.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
You're a baby.
Oh, no, I know.
I turned 37 this month.
Yeah.
You look older because of the beard.
Yeah.
But you have no gray in it, actually, so you still look your age. And you have a beautiful hairline.
Thank you very much.
All right, enough about you.
Appreciate that.
What else do we got in this little play? This reminds me of
oh, dear God.
Of the Fonz's green playbook in The Water Boy.
All right, let's talk about
got all the great plays. It gets stolen from him.
Yeah.
He's got to win it back.
All right. So something else that I find interesting is production of nitric oxide naturally in the body. So people are seeking out like Viagra and all these different supplements, NO2, whatever. I'm sure there's a supplement called NO2. So humming, there's a guy called Carl Lundsberg.
Dude, I've heard this guy. I think was it on your podcast or Greenfield's?
I'm sure we've talked about it.
Okay.
I'm not sure. So he's professor of nitrous oxide, which I didn't know that existed, but apparently it does. And he found that just the simple act of humming increases NO2 by 15 times inside your bloodstream. So I think some of this stuff is a little bit potentially dubious as far as like how long the NO2 lasts in the body and all that. But it's just a fascinating thing. Like breathing through your nose in general ends up increasing NO2 dramatically in the body. I think it's something like 35 times, but I might be, you got to fact check that part, but more, So you have this labyrinth that the air passes through in your nasal passages, and as it does that, it picks up these NO2 molecules. When we breathe through our mouth, we don't have that.
Yeah, and there's no filter in the mouth either.
And there's no filter. It doesn't cool the air down. It ends up being a bit like collapsive on the actual structure of your jaw. So when you're naturally all this like Chinese medicine stuff where people are saying, like, oh, you like put the tongue up to the roof of the mouth, complete the microcosmic orbit so you can have a full body orgasm. Like they're like tongue to the roof of the mouth to complete that electrical circuit from language that a lot of people in like Western world might not love. But structurally, you're literally pushing that tongue out against that hard palate to create space in your jawline. So when children, if they're mouth breathers, which sounds like so terrible, calling somebody a mouth breather, like, oh,
there's more mouth breathers in the world.
It sounds like worse than it. Maybe it's pretty bad actually, but it's pretty defaming, that word, mouth breathing. But literally, as you're doing that, you'll see it's just not attractive, for one thing. So the jaw starts to kind of recede back, and you kind of get like this double chin type thing. And then as you're doing that, you're not pushing up with the tongue. So now all you have is the musculature of your face pressing in, collapsing your facial structure. And so to get that, like,
I want this to be the clip that we run on social media with you making that fucking face.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, we can. I'm sure that'll be the case. So it starts collapsing your facial structure, right? So your muscles are active. You're constantly compressing yourself, and that outward force from the tongue, in this case, is helpful with kind of like balancing that and creating space. Pretty freaking fascinating. And then along with that, final piece, as a mouth breather, the tendency is to become more of like a clavicular breather, so breathing up around your neck. That's like the startle reflex.
Using accessory muscles, very sympathetic.
Yeah. So, and all that stuff's good. Like, there's no, like, it's easy to bash sympathetic versus parasympathetic. That's not the case. Every time you take a breath in, that's a sympathetic response. Every time you take breath out, that's parasympathetic. You can tune that too. But the tendency, I just mouth breathe a little bit. Hopefully people weren't offended. But the tendency with that is, if you're breathing through your mouth like that, you're kind of chronically putting yourself a little bit more into that side of like that startle reflex. Once again, how many people for the last 30 years of their lives have been stuck in a chronic startle reflex and they just don't realize it? So something as simple as just starting to bring that breath through your nose, that compounded times a day, times a week, times a year, times 20 years, like, huge impact. So there's small, subtle things that we're just not thinking about, but they're there. They're on the table. There's so much shit that we can do right now that would change our biology for the future version of ourselves, that we're just like,
yeah, whatever. It's not a big deal.
Whatever. I'll get to it later. You're not going to get to it later. Get to it now or shut up.
Do it now. The diet starts tomorrow, Aaron. We like shit today. What else we got in here?
Oh man,
there's a lot.
There's a lot. I gotta dig in if we're gonna go like that. All right. Well, this is kind of interesting. Half of Americans can't afford a $400 bill, an unexpected bill. 90% of doctor visits are stress-based. I think it's all associated. I mean, that's kind of a separate, but I think that could potentially be tied back into like a physiological type thing as well. People chronically living in this, like, I'm on the edge of disaster.
Yeah.
Like when was the last time you were in that place? You remember this, I'm sure.
Edge of disaster?
Couldn't afford a sub $1,000 bill. Like that,
yeah.
That would ruin your world.
I would say 2018.
Damn.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's pretty stressful, I think it's I mean, this is the first time in my life where I've been able to really not spend frivolously and do whatever the fuck I want. I don't have fuck you money, but I'm certainly in a place now where I don't worry about how much we spend at the grocery store. I don't worry if we have a friend in town and we need to buy him food. Yeah. I don't worry about any of those things anymore. And if we get a bill, I can pay it, So even just like I bet on Cain Velasquez in his last fight versus Francis Ngannou, and I lost $1,700. that'll probably be my last bet for a long time, maybe ever, just because that's the nature of MMA.
You went and
But
learned.
I was able to pay, my guy really quickly. It wasn't like I had to wait or, I was, fuck, man, where's this going to come from? Like I wouldn't have made the bet. You don't bet if you don't have the money to lose, basically. But I had the money to lose. And I love Kane. Wanted to show my support and root for him. And also thought he was going to win. That's the real reason I put money on him. But yes, like that's like a polar opposite expression of that, where it's like, hey, we can still afford all of our food. We can get babysitters. We can have date nights. And if I have, an occasional loss in MMA betting, then it's not going to break the bank where we're fucked. And now we can't go on dates. And we have to have, $150 spending limit every time we go to the store, like shit like that, So I think I remember Rogan talking about that the first time he went from wondering if he could pay his bills each month and living check to check to where like that shift happened where he didn't need to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
He always had money in his account. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much been 2019. But fucking 2018, I was overdrawn a couple of times.
Wow.
In my checking. No doubt.
You do a lot better. It's just so funny. So I come from, I think, a far more like scarce model than maybe some people that I don't know, maybe not. What is your model? You come from a scarce model?
I come from super scarce.
You're from
and then
super
my parents,
scarce model.
like we ate Spam, and we grew up on Spam, Kraft mac and cheese. Occasionally we'd get kielbasa sausage in the mac and cheese, but we were shopping at Lucky's, Albertsons.
But how did you
Safeway.
feel?
Eating that way?
Yeah. Did you feel like you were okay? Did you always feel like you were fed? Did you always feel comfortable? You always feel like you were protected?
No, we didn't
safe?
go without. We didn't go without food. Even if we had to eat Bush's baked beans for dinner, we didn't go without food.
So I think that because I had more of like a shock in my upbringing, where it's like, oh, all of a sudden, like the floor is being pulled from out, and it seems like we don't know what's going to happen. Is dad going to be dead? Is the house going to go away? Is like what's next? I have a feeling, I suspect, that kind of inclined me more towards like a scarcity type mindset of like at any time, all this shit could blow up.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of had this like chronic squirrel, stashing nuts away.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of people do
since
that.
I was like a little guy.
Like our grandparents who lived through the Great Depression, a lot of them live that way. They're just penny pinchers. And this because they couldn't unlearn what the Great Depression was like.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think like that was, less than 100 years ago. It fucking damn sure can happen again. I mean, you saw the housing crisis in 2008.
It's very likely.
Very likely will happen again in our lifetime. But I don't know what's better, like the way I live now, and the way I lived last year, even when I wasn't broke, I was making good money, but we have a lot of expenses. My wife doesn't work, and I want it to stay that way. I don't want to outsource who raises our children.
Yeah,
and but I think with that, there was always just a trust that I have that all will be provided for. Anything that I need is coming. And so I don't know if that's blind faith. It's not me thinking of it in like terms of like The Secret and shit like that. It's just me realizing like there will be times where we have to pinch pennies, times where we can spend a little bit more. And in that ebb and flow, I don't have to fucking worry about losing the house or my car or any of that stuff. You know, like I don't think that way. Probably should stash some more away. For sure.
You ever think about like the save 10% of everything you get kind of thing? That's what
I've heard that
a lot of financial folks recommend.
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
I think it's something like that is a valuable thing because
I'm maxing my 401k. I'm doing other things in that sense. So
I mean, we can tie it back to like a biological thing too. Like I think having that 10% could be that nose breathing as you're in the room. It's like
the daily practice.
Yeah, it could be that sitting on the floor. It could be that get a freaking pull-up bar, hang it between your office door, and just give it a little hang. And every time I kind of think of that as being kind of like you're adding money into your account.
Yeah.
So like most of us throughout the whole day, we're just fucking banging out credit. Boom, boom, boom. And it's like you have so many opportunities, just 10%, man. It's not complicated.
That's the thing, though. It does need to be daily, especially when it comes to like anything that's for you. Even just the way our work is set up. Like grind for 5 days, then take 2 days off, and then
totally
it's like
broken,
I'm just going to get through it, and then I'll rest. And it's like no, most people get shit faced on the weekends.
Yeah.
You know, quite a few Americans and Canadians too get shit-faced on the weekends. Aussies too, you know, and it's like that you're not recovering before you go back to work, but everybody's working for the weekend. That was a walkout song I went out to by Loverboy. Like, it's so fucking true. Like, that's it. And then you think, like, over time, because it's all you got to pay that debt back. It's all on credit.
You ever see
those? Comes back.
You ever see those wasps that they like hijack the brains of cockroaches, and then they put their baby, their like sack of babies, whatever the hell kind of
inside a roach.
Yeah. Dude, it's pretty cool.
And then they come out of their gut like Alien?
Yeah.
Is that where Ridley Scott got the fucking...
shit up. Look up wasp hijacks. The article I saw is wasp hijacks spiders, but it has a video of roaches. Anyways, if you guys could
we can link to it in the show
somewhere
notes.
To the world, it's so cool. Dude, so the wasp jumps on the back of this cockroach, and it does this weird, like, sexual looking penetratory thing down through, you know, whatever, it's thorax or something.
Shoots its load inside.
Shoots some type of neurotoxic load inside of it, and then it just kind of waddles off, and then it's like they separate, kind of like they just got done having sex in a way. And then they're like, oh, that's crazy. And then they come back, and then the cockroach is like this docile, brainwashed critter that's like, hey, what's up? And then the wasp's like, hey, what's up? Come with me. and it literally, like, I don't know if it takes it by its hand somehow, but it
they walk arm in arm together down the street.
They walk over to this little like cockroach sanctuary area, like a little like safe haven to put the cockroach, which is now just the womb for the wasp's future wasp children. And it lays this sack of eggs. I think it's like inside, if I'm remembering correctly, or like it lays it in there somewhere. You just got to look the video up. And then we got this brainwashed cockroach that creates these babies for the wasp.
And does it die upon creating the babies?
Yeah. It's done.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's done. But so what I want, this is like a graphic, probably going a little bit too far, or maybe not.
No. Okay.
Analogy.
Go far.
But I wonder that sometimes if people looking into their cell phone, and people like working for the weekend, and people spending their whole entire life just investing themselves to like making it. As long as you're in that place of like, oh fuck, man, if I can't afford $400. If my cell phone breaks, I'm not paying rent. Kind of feels a little bit like the cockroach to me. You know, where you're like, whatever you say, just take me by the hand and keep me safe.
Yeah.
You know, okay, cool, sweet. Boss man is like, I'm just going to penetrate some eggs into you, and you're going to work for me, and you're going to sort this future of my children out. And
then you'll die.
And then you'll fucking die. I don't know. I mean, that's pretty dark.
The show took a gruesome turn for the worse. This is the darkest
but we can take
human
it back.
Optimization hour.
We can take it back.
That's right. Show me something positive in that notebook.
All right. This is the easiest interview forever. Just like
Aaron's journal.
Next. All right. So I was watching Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes, great movie.
So
fucking
good.
Great movie. God, Freddie Mercury is so dope.
Probably one of the best movies in the history of
Have
movies
you seen?
I've seen for a while.
Real quick. Have you seen the trailer for the new Elton John movie?
No.
It looks insane.
Does it
It
look
looks
good?
so dope. It looks fucking. I can't wait. I'm a huge Elton fan. I can't fucking wait to watch it.
I didn't really even know, because we now know that I'm a whippersnapper. I didn't even know how rad Prince was.
Really?
That movie, like, really, because like his music's so eccentric. It's hard to really, unless you were
Prince is the
there.
shit. He's a total artist.
I know,
but
I mean,
wait,
now
he
I
has
know
a movie
more.
out.
Oh, I said Prince. I meant
you said Prince.
Oh,
Freddie
I
Mercury?
meant Queen.
Oh yeah,
Sorry, I meant Queen. Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
Sorry, my fault.
Queen.
I
Yeah,
mixed them
no,
up.
he was just a fucking performer. Like, he could fucking own the stage.
Yeah. I didn't. I had no idea.
It was
how
cool to
rad
see
he
the
was.
background, and I don't know how much that's accurate. Everybody always comes out after a movie like that, and like, well, this followed the truth,
Yeah,
but this
exactly.
was, inconsistent with what actually happened. And It's
Right.
like, it was just a fucking dope movie.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
You know?
So, anyways, Freddie Mercury. He, in the beginning of that, I was on an airplane, which is where all good movies manifest themselves. And I was watching this one, and in the beginning part of it, he's like trying to get the job to be the new lead singer
Mhm.
for I don't know what they're called at the time. I don't think they're called Queen yet, whatever they're called, like some high school band. And they lose their lead singer. And they're like, oh man. And Freddie Mercury comes up. He's like, well, I could sing for you. And he's got this like jacked up mouth and he's all weird. And they're like that's not going to work. And he mentions that he has 4 extra incisors in his mouth. That's why his mouth's all jacked up. And so because he has that extra space, i.e. nose breathing, he's able to create more vocal range, AKA he's able to create more expression.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're able to have that range of motion in this case, the incisors in your mouth, or, your jawline, but also how does that manifest itself in the shoulder girdle? How does that manifest itself in the hip girdle, in the knees, ankle range of motion? Just all of the ranges of motion throughout your body. If you have full range of motion in your body at any point in the body, it gives you more capacity for more emotional expression or any form of expression. And so I just thought, to me, I was just like, damn, that's dope. So it's like, it goes back to nose breathing, essentially.
Everything goes back. I think there's a book called Jaws that Brian McKenzie mentioned on the show that talks quite a bit about this. But it's funny because like you're talking about expression. If you ever try to dance, like ecstatic dance after deadlifting or back squats,
it fucks you up.
You're fucked.
Yeah.
You're too stiff. You know what I'm saying? You're over there in the corner doing the 2-step.
Yeah.
You can't really move and open up the body.
Paint ourselves into a corner with that stuff.
Yeah.
So weightlifting, and that's what I'm sure you see, is people being kind of obsessive or dogmatic almost, or religious with like specific types of exercise, to the point that they become just like any dogma. They become stuck inside that. They can't see outside of the pale of that. Mm-hmm. And so it's that example exactly. When you're all stiff and it looks like there's a stick going up your ass from you're working out, and then the rest of the week you move literally from your car to your wrong desk with you.
Yeah,
it's like you're programming walk with stick in my ass. Like you're missing out on precious opportunities that you could have been working on movement function.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all just balance, right? You can
I'm pro deadlifting and squatting, all that stuff.
I love deadlift. I love back squat.
Dude,
I fucking love back squat. And I like a lot of different variations, but a barbell back squat is pretty fucking awesome with what it causes physiologically. With that, you also have to pay attention to how much mobility work you're doing, like really like getting into a squat position while you're sore and hanging out there. I can't really do that 10-minute Kelly Starrett in one whack, but I can get through the 10-minute squat test throughout the day.
Yeah.
And that adds up.
Oh, it's easy. That's the 10%.
Mm-hmm.
That's the saving up. Just pop down. You saw me do it at your house probably 16 times already. Like
you can touch your balls to the floor.
That's right. Every time I got to freaking tinker something on my backpack, I'll put the backpack on the ground. I'll go down to a deep squat and tinker it down there. I have the option to stand up. But it's like, this is a perfect opportunity to mobilize my stuff. And so with the weightlifting, I think it's the same thing we were talking about kind of earlier. It's like, at what point is it excess? So you can practice weightlifting and work more at like a neurological level, more like a neuromuscular level, where you're trying to really kind of create recruit motor units and create like a more effective like lightning storm connection into your muscles. And do like 5x5s or something like that. 5x5 being like 5 reps, 5 sets, as an example, and focus more on like actual strength output, as opposed to just going until you murder your tissue.
Yeah.
And you literally can't move.
Sore all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
High volume training. It's the one thing that shifted for me over the years since retiring is that if I'm going to train high intensity, it's a very low volume. And if I'm going to train high volume, it's very low intensity. I'll do if I'm doing any kind of mileage on a distance run, it's nose breathing pace.
Yeah.
And then if I'm going to run sprints all out, I'm not doing a whole lot of those. Like we did 4 sprints yesterday.
So good.
For a 1/10 of a mile, 160-yard sprints. 4 pretty much all out in succession with each other. And it was fucking hard.
Yeah.
It was not fun after that. I didn't fucking enjoy the rest of the workout because we started with that. Maybe we should have finished with that. But
what the biggest, go on, sorry.
I was just going to say like that, when you do something like that, you have to understand what the intensity should match the volume in terms of how they're going to teeter totter is what I'm getting at. They need to teeter totter because when you go all out for a long period of time, that's when you can destroy yourself.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's a good idea to go like Sundance ceremony style and like have a serious blowout. You know, not that I know anything about what the experience of having a Sundance is like, but, you know, I know what doing some variety of hard-ish things is like. And I feel like those experiences throughout my life have been some of the most valuable. You know, so I'm not preaching always moderation. I think sometimes blowing it out is a really cool thing to do and see what can you potentially do. But one thing I was thinking was with yesterday, like one of the most powerful aspects of the training that we did yesterday, I think was the community part.
No doubt.
We're slapping butts, we're high-fiving, we're freaking, everybody did a group wrestle with like Whitney and the Miller, so it wasn't totally
so it wasn't
totally creepy.
it was
not anything wrong with that.
For sure,
We go
leaned
Roman
further
style.
man on man out of the bi
It's all
situation.
good.
It was not 50-50 bisexual.
It's so funny how guys do that. Like even during the picture, like, let's put Whitney in the Miller, Whitney in the Miller, Whitney in the Miller,
Whitney in the
middle.
Miller.
That was good.
Miller in the middle.
Miller in the middle. Yeah, it's so funny. It's like car seats.
Yeah.
You know, if the girl's nice, like she needs balance it. It's gonna be, you don't want people to see. Whatever. People are cute.
So you're writing a book.
Write a damn book.
When's it coming out?
January 2020, probably maybe February.
Ooh.
It's interesting having. Yeah, that's the interesting thing. Like me by myself, there'd be a good chance that I'd finish the manuscript, say that was a great experience, I learned a lot, and then just move on. Me with like a whole group of people, you know, teams of people in New York and LA and all the kind of like organization and a co-writer working, and it's like, I'm like, oh shit, I have to show up. Totally different game for me.
Yeah.
You know, and so January or February. We don't have official book deadline yet. They say spring of 2020, which means anywhere from like December to like actual spring, essentially.
Okay. And that's going to be all about movement.
Kind of, sort of.
Correct?
It's more like,
sort of?
it's kind of like what we're talking about. Like my lens isn't so like move, you know, it's kind of more like the mind body part.
Okay.
Is the thing that I'm really enamored by and interested in.
So what have you learned that's interesting? Because one of the things that I loved about Chris Ryan when he was saying, you don't write a book about the thing you know, you write a book about the thing you don't know. That way you get to learn while you're
totally
going.
Oh, dude.
What have you learned new that you didn't know before in writing this book?
Oof, man. I mean, honestly, the upcoming book is one that I will be able to use as the baseline foundation for what I'm interested in studying for the rest of my life. I'm almost positive I can say that. Like I can keep on going deeper and deeper into each one of those chapters and say, okay, cool. Like I'm still in like the nascent baseline figuring this stuff out. I'll probably say it when I'm 60, hopefully.
Yeah.
You know, and so one example, well, something that I think I've learned quite more about is just again how our environment forms us. You know, so a few of the chapters in there is like simple, like really simple, actionable tools on how you can start to align, because it's the name of my everything, your home and your office and your travel, so that you can get a little bit more of that 10% savings every time you're just existing in your house. But one of the interesting things is just like the psychic weight of being in a disorganized house, being in a messy house. You know, so you go into a room, like you are being imprinted by everything in that room. You know, we're imprinting each other right now. We're literally like, you know, we're attuning. We're kind of like becoming in part with each other right now. You know, you can feel that, I'm sure. Like that's like a part of
feel it in my root chakra.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Totally. I'm getting a semi.
Yeah.
You know, and so when you go into a room, like just paying attention to like, oh wow, do you feel tired? You know, do you have chronic fatigue or whatever kind of terms you would put on it? And then you go into your house, and every time you walk into the room, shit's disheveled, your bed's unmade, you got stuff on the floor, you just you're like a hoarder kind of sort of, maybe not completely, but it's almost like borderline. Like that's tiring to be in. Like your brain literally has to process those things as you walk into that room.
Yeah.
And so something as simple as that, there's all sorts of research around that, how it actually is, it makes your cognitive function more efficient to be in a room that is feng shui.
Yep. Declutter that. Let the energy flow.
Declutter that. Yeah. Like looking at your space, because it is an extension of your mind, an extension of your biology.
Someone was saying that about cleaning the yard. Like if your yard is fucking overgrown and not well organized, then that's kind of the reflection of your life at that point.
Fuck yeah.
So like, you know,
Absolutely.
pulling
Without a doubt.
weeds, mowing the lawn, that's all important stuff. Even if you just have it done and it's done every 2 weeks by a lawn care person, that's still, you know, that's still okay. It doesn't mean you have to do it yourself, but like you got to get that done.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that's I'm a chapter in the book is the power of touch. You know, and that's something. So essentially, the book that I'm writing, it gets into all of the fringe subjects of like fitness. You know, so I'm like, it's cool. We understand, you know, that we, you know, pull ups and all that stuff, which I have like hanging and all that. I have the standard fundamentals in there.
Okay.
But there's a lot of other components that don't have as loud of a voice that I think is like the foundation of our health. You know, for example, being contacted by another human being.
Yeah.
You know, you're familiar with like the Romanian orphanages? I feel like I probably talked to you about it before.
No.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Oh, this is good. Yeah, this is important stuff. So I thought you were taking a notepad out. You're taking a snooze thing out.
We're gonna do a little
I was like,
snooze-erino,
Kyle really
baby.
cares what I'm saying. Like,
I got a fucking note taker right here. My boy Ryan Giles and Chris
I've
Fortinez.
hired a note taker for you. Romanian orphanages. So during the fall of communism, there was a lot of Romanian children's. There was like an excess of babies, and to the point that it was like they couldn't take care of them. It was essentially like a storage house for babies and children. And what they found is that there's a thing called failure to thrive, where essentially if you don't have that contact, that not just physical contact, but also that emotional attunement, like we need it, your body stops processing information. Essentially, your body stops growing. You know, and so with these children, they end up having all sorts of learning disabilities. They wouldn't grow correctly just because they're not contacted. And they're like, "Whoa, what's wrong? Is something like in the water or whatever?" And you're like, and then all of a sudden,
Did all their parents die in the war? Or?
I think it was because they were. I don't actually know the exact reason of why there were so many there. I was like looking into what the exact reason was, like recently. I was like, what is the exact thing? I'm sure somebody listening, I'm sure a lot of people listening know this. So I apologize for not knowing.
I don't know that anyone
reason.
Listening knows this, but continue.
Whatever.
Back to the point of the kids, damn it.
Yeah. Anyways, but throughout that though, they weren't able to grow essentially, you know, and they have all these learning disabilities, and then they ended up being able to get more caretakers. And after they got more caretakers, all of a sudden they start to grow, they start to get stronger, they start to, you know, laugh, and they start to like come alive essentially, you know. And so it's like that. I think it's easy for us to think like, oh yeah, of course you got to touch a baby, duh, no big deal. I think adults are just a bunch of big babies.
We are, for sure. For sure.
You know, so it's a similar thing. Like if you look at like we were talking recently about like macaque baboons, their average time that they're grooming each other throughout the day is like 120 minutes a day. All they would need is like 30 minutes. You know, so like over 20% of their day is devoted. I did an Instagram post with you when I was like grooming your neck, your traps, aka I was like leaning my elbow into his shoulder. You know, and so that's something that you see in primates. It's like a supernatural thing. Touch each other. Super normal. In fact, it's a part of our whole political hierarchy. It's a part of our whole care system. You know, if we don't do that, there's this tribal disconnect, right? What are we kind of in right now in Western culture? You know, it feels to me like essentially we're in a tribal disconnect is the way it appears. You know, like our tribe is this digital tribe inside of the screen. You know, it's really hard to groom a screen. In fact, it's true. It's almost like you are grooming it in a way.
Every time you touch
I think that's some real shit. I think we are grooming. I think we're grooming the future race, the future singularity, whatever, electronic age. It seems like
that definitely could be the case. It'd be interesting to see, like the vision. Not that everything that I see in plant medicines comes to be true, but I would say like 95% of it does. There was nothing to fear with the rise of AI.
Yeah, with seamless, you are the cell phone.
Seamless integration. We're already integrated completely with it.
Well, it's easy to shit on the cell phone. I'm not shitting on the cell phone. I think it's, if anything, it's a tool. I mean, a lot of people have said this more times. I don't need to say it again, but I'm going to say it again. You know, it's like a knife. You can use a knife for to cut your arm off, or you can use it to like chop vegetables. So the cell phone is a full powerful tool, amazing tool, incredible. But I think that it's we need more emotional intelligence is a big thing.
Yeah.
So that's something like we have. Other people have said this too. I don't remember how it goes exactly, but we have like what was it? Like the technological intelligence of like a 7th grader and the emotional intelligence of like a 4-year-old. Not that exactly, but something roundabout. Like we have like pretty deep technological intelligence, maybe. But as far as the way people feel wielding all that stuff, I don't think it's quite synchronized. It feels like
there is a push though. I mean, obviously people listening to this show and Align podcast are on the path. They're trying to do shit right.
No doubt.
But you see it in corporate wellness. Exos is in with Intel and Google and a ton of these giant corporations, and they have nap pods and fucking full-blown CrossFit workout centers on campus and all these different things, and really good food where you can choose like any kind of food in every single building on the Google campus. I think that's the shift going forward, and like here at Onnit, we have unlimited PTO. Obviously, they fucking somebody's keeping an eye on that. It's not like I can take off 300 days a year and still get paid the same.
Yeah,
but
I didn't even know what PTO means. That's how
paid time off.
No, I know now.
Okay,
after you said it,
yeah,
that's how.
Yeah, but like there's a lot of things like that where you have that kind of flexibility, and I think that's the shift we see, because big corporations realize, as you study this stuff, that if you want better work output, there should be time to meditate or time to nap in the middle of the day. And then the second half of your day will be way better. You won't have that mid-afternoon lull. And if there's good, healthy food you can grab, then, and there's still shit food there, but you have the choice, right? And they also did this too. This is really cool, was their biggest displays have green apples, bananas, and fruit. And their smallest displays have like Pop-Tarts and the bullshit that people would eat, because they know the first thing you see, that's what you gravitate towards.
Yeah.
So like that, it's everything is designed with intention. And I think when you look at it that way, it gives me hope for the future, because we've been fucking so off course for so long, and it really is just negligence. It has nothing to do with ill will. It has nothing to do with, I mean, I certainly think big agriculture, there's a problem with big agriculture and things like that, but food scientists are going to make stuff flavorful. And as Rob Wolf talks about, we were wired to eat. So those flavor combinations make us want to eat more. But outside of that, there will be a return to eating whole foods and fucking really, good things that make us feel better, that help us operate better.
Yeah, this is like a tinfoil rant, so I'll keep it very limited. But it really surprises me that like the food substitutes, like you're describing, like Jolly Ranchers and shit, are even legal.
Oh yeah. Well, in a lot of countries they aren't. In like Northern Europe, they're pretty well regulated. In fact, Kraft had to change their mac and cheese in order to be able to sell it in there, because they really protect children. So they had to use annatto, which is a natural food coloring for yellow, instead of like yellow 1 or whatever the fucking number is, right? They couldn't use artificial colors. They couldn't use artificial sweeteners. There's no aspartame allowed in chewing gum anywhere in Northern Europe, in the Nordic countries. So, like and that's in our gum. It's in our Diet Coke. It's fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
It's in sugar-free Red Bull. I mean, it's a neurotoxin.
Yeah.
It's like nobody's looking out for us here. Like, I think the government's not looking out for us.
I think the whole thing, I think people are looking out for us. I think in general, like their intention, maybe not us, but they're looking out for something. I don't think like the intention of most of these corporations is like evil.
Well, I would agree with most, but I mean, I don't think the intention of Monsanto is to destroy the earth, because then there's nobody left to sell to.
I bet you from their perspective, they think they're doing the best thing they can do.
But
is my guess.
I mean, but they're not. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they're not.
You could think like,
nor am I.
We're gonna solve world hunger by creating genetically modified foods, and then that's the sales pitch you give to everyone. They know better. They know they're genetically modifying food to use more glyphosate, Roundup, a product they make.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like they know that. They at least know the it is for cash. It's for profit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel as though we're a product of our environment. We're a product of our education, and so these companies, they're getting the education that this is the way. and this is the direction they go. And it's like what our species of human has done over millennia is we've figured out how to make our life more comfortable. And this gets back to, I'm veering back towards movement stuff because that's the only thing that I've like spent any time like looking into, which I probably need to expand my horizons. But that's what we've done. We've ameliorated anything that's like challenging, physically challenging for our bodies to do. And it's like I think that the intention of that is positive. Like it started off positive. And now it gets to the point where it's like, okay, we've gone kind of too far that we're kind of reaching like idiocracy level. like we're there. If you look, like, go to a fucking hockey game or go to a football game, nothing against anybody, but like just look around the stands, and I'm sure it's not you or your family. I'm sure you guys are the ones that are like keeping it together. But in general, if you look around, it's like, oh, it's like, okay, like I see an uncanny resemblance to that movie, I think, and so within that, I think what we need to do is we just need to do our own research. Like we can't trust the man.
Yeah, you can't go blind faith with anybody.
You need to do your own research. You need to seek out people that are doing a good job. Seek out people that are bright in their eyes. Seek out people that are healthy. Seek out people that are efficient. Seek out people that are like effective at what they're doing. And that's the magic of things like this podcast. That's the magic of things like social media. And like we all have like these little kind of like our little like heroes that we can look up to. And I think that we're like, who watches the news? Like, do you watch the news?
No, but old people do. A lot of people do.
Like newspapers.
My family members watch the fucking news because they feel like they don't know what's going on in the world. I'm like, wait a minute.
Here's the bad news.
You're going to learn what's bad in the world, not anything of relevance.
We need to know what's terrible in the world.
Yeah,
how could we
go
on without knowing that?
I can find out there was you sent a package out to me back in the day here in Austin, and there was an Austin bomber who was making bombs at people's doorsteps in the form of a package. And he fucked a lot of people up. That's an important thing to know if you live in Austin. Well, I don't watch the news. And how did I hear about that? Word of mouth.
Right.
People are like, dude, you hear about that fucking Austin bomber?
Yeah.
And it's on Twitter. It's on social media. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not a...
But that's the thing. The things that you need to hear,
they're going to surface.
Make it
on
the Twitter.
You don't have to watch to hear.
Because you actually have people that you intentionally follow.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see like a light, of like, I like that guy. Whatever he's doing, working. Mm-hmm. Whatever he's reading about, I want to read it.
Yeah.
Or you can listen to like just the bad news, like just what's projected in order to get you to, what bleeds leads. Mm-hmm. So it's just that shock factor of getting, and social media is certainly guilty of that as well, but you can still be decisive upon who you're following within social media.
Yeah.
So it feels to me as though there is like a transition happening where you can actually make a conscious decision of where your information comes from.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Which podcast to listen to. Obviously, y'all are listening to podcasts. That's awesome. But I mean, like I see that shift coming too. Just look at the way podcasting is blowing up. And look at the way YouTube is blowing up. And obviously, there's a lot of bullshit on YouTube. There's a lot of bullshit in podcasts. But the cream rises to the top, Mr. Aaron Alexander. And you have one of my favorite podcasts. I'm about to jump on it. Bam! We need a potty break. Woo! It's been a quick 40, 45, right? Ryan Giles?
How long was that?
48. There we go.
Damn, your timing.
We're going to get...
that's a good indication that you have solid introspection skills. Oh, but you've looked at your fucking cell phone. Never mind.
Yeah, that's great. You thought I had my internal clock going?
No,
Fuck
that's
out
real.
Of here.
No, that's
I'm trying to keep us on track. You got to massage Aubrey's genitals later.
Oh, yeah.
At noon.
Right, we're going to do an intraanal massage. No, we're not.
That's right. You got to get his deep prostate going. All right. I love you, brother.
I love you.
Align podcast. And then
we're going over to the other side, the dark side.
Align therapy. We'll link to all the fucking
Align
social
therapy
medias.
is not a thing. It's just Align podcast.
Okay. Align podcast. Yeah. But what's your social handle?
Align podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. That's website's Align podcast. All that stuff's Align podcast.
Cool. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Jumping over.
All right.
Thanks for listening.